Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the March 2026 Planning Commission meeting. And I'm going to start off with our normal housekeeping items here. Commissioner Black, would you go ahead and take the roll, please?
Sure. Maybe. Miller.
Here.
Choate. Here. Black's here. Mompey. Hatley. Duffield. Edgel.
Here.
Coffin. Clear.
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here.
We have a quorum?
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to move ahead to the minutes from the previous meeting, which I don't think, is there shows here where you got minutes from the January and February meetings here?
Yeah, I went back and watched the recording, and somehow we missed it last month, approving
Well,
the January minutes. So
I'm
just
new.
hit
I'm
'em
new.
both.
Okay,
Hey,
give me a break.
hey,
All
we'll
right.
just hit them both tonight.
How about we just approve them all for next year? What do you- yeah, go ahead.
It sounds good to me.
Yeah, all right, I'm sorry.
No, you're
All right,
fine.
Does anybody have any questions, any comments about the minutes from last month or the ones we forgot to vote on the month before? No, all minds clear. I'll entertain a motion to accept those. We have a motion to accept.
Second.
Second, a motion and a second to accept the minutes from January and February meetings. All those in favor, acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried. All right. No unfinished business. New business is a large-scale development for, pardon me, I don't have my glasses on, a solar solar array located along Hobnob Road, submitted by Infra on behalf of Cherokee Nation Entertainment. You have a staff report on that for us?
Yes, sir, we do. As was stated, this is a large-scale development off Hobnob Road for a new solar array. Currently, this property is an open field, Zone C5 Highway Commercial Casino District. The property is surrounded to the north and east by C5 zoning and to the south and west by C2 Highway Commercial zoning, as well as a small M1 Light Industrial Zone catty-corner to the southwest of the property. Surrounding uses include an RDOT facility, Mobley Concrete, a TLI facility, and other open fields that are owned by Legends Resort and Casino, Arkansas. In the review of this proposal, in the C5 Highway Commercial Casino District, Section 2.10.2 refers you to the table of permitted uses where a utility substation, i.e. solar array, use is a permitted use and is subject to the provisions contained in the Land Subdivision Code pertaining to large-scale developments. In the Land Subdivision Development Code, or LSDC, Section 7, it states that any large-scale development meeting any one of the following criteria shall be reviewed by the Planning Commission prior to issuance of a building permit or other city permit. Article 7.2.1 states that buildings or developments placed on a plot of real property 5 acres or larger, and Article 7.2.2 states any development containing an existing building or buildings with combined square footage of 15,000 square feet or larger. For the purposes of this application, staff is considering the solar arrays themselves as structures. The applicant has met the checklist items for Article 7.4. Article 2.10.3, site plan review, is required and will be completed prior to the issuance of a building permit. This application, along with additional details outlined below, will be needed to complete the review. Article 2.10.4, area regulations. Solar structures appear to meet setback requirements for the C5 zone, but will be confirmed with the site plan review prior to any permit issuance. Article 2.10.5, parking regulations. This site is unique in that there is no parking needed, as this is a private utility substation. The only time vehicles will be on site is when maintenance is needed on the solar panels. As a result, no parking is proposed. This additionally means there is no ADA parking requirement, as there will be no public access to the site and no parking provided in general. Article 3.22, commercial building design. This is another situation wherein the proposal is unique as compared to other developments. While this development is occurring in a commercial zone, there will be no buildings on site. Therefore, commercial building and site design, while theoretically triggered by this development, are not applicable. Article 3.23.13, this development does trigger the sidewalk requirements. Due to the unique location, development, and topography of the site, the applicant has reached an agreement with our Public Works Department and will be utilizing the payment in lieu option. The applicant will generate a cost estimate for the construction of the sidewalk, and once reviewed and agreed upon by the city, the applicant will pay the in lieu of fee. Article 4.1, the applicant is proposing a 6-foot fence surrounding the entirety of the site. The applicant will be pursuing a variance to allow a 7-foot fence as called out on their plan set. However, at this time, they are proceeding with the 6-foot fence proposal. Article 5.1, landscaping required. This development does trigger the landscaping requirements per Article 5.3.1, as it is a new commercial development. 5.7, street trees, i.e. one every 50 feet. Street trees do not appear to be shown. We will confirm the details with the site plan review. 5.8, street frontage buffer. They are 10 feet wide, 5 small trees or shrubs every 50 feet. It does appear sufficient in review. We will confirm with the site plan review. 5.9, interior parking lot. That is landscape islands every 16 parking spaces. This is not applicable in this situation. 5.10, perimeter buffer, 5 feet in width, 1 large tree or 2 small every 50 feet. Again, appears sufficient. We will confirm with the final site plan review. Article 6.1, parking. There will be no minimum number of spaces required, and as previously stated, none is proposed as this site will have no frequent staff on site and will not be open to the public. A statement or parking analysis will still be required with the building permit and shall at a minimum provide the number of off-street parking spaces proposed on the site, number of shared parking spaces or on-street parking spaces to be considered for that calculation, the expected number of employees at any given time, number of customers at any given time, as well as any other information showing that the proposed parking will be sufficient for the use. Again, it is anticipated that this will be 0. Article 6.1.6, driveways. The applicant is proposing a 15-foot wide concrete driveway, which is permitted by code. The proposal additionally includes gravel behind the fenced area. The fence will be screened so that the gravel cannot be seen from the right-of-way, and therefore this vehicle storage area will be permitted. Article 7, regarding signage. Any new signs will require a permit and must be submitted to permitting for review. Therefore, staff recommends that the commission approve this large-scale development of a new solar array with the following condition. 1, that the applicant provides details as noted within the staff report as being required to confirm compliance with the site plan review. As a result of the findings below, that the applicant has expressed their commitment to adhere to zoning regulations. And 2, that the applicant demonstrates compliance with regulations. Are there any questions for staff at this time?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
No questions at all. Is there anybody here? Well, we didn't have a sign-up sheet here, but does anybody else want? Are you guys here representing them or no?
We're just here if there are any inquiries that staff couldn't field, but we are looking
Okay.
for representatives. If you don't have any inquiries for us, we're going to do
Okay.
I have a question.
If you would step up to the mic and state your name for the record so we can get it logged in, please.
My name is Jordan Tinsley. I'm a vice president of development at Infra, which is the design build company that proposes to build this development.
Somewhere in the paperwork, I read that there was vegetation going to be planted that's known to grow under these.
So this is a ground-mounted solar array, and the original vegetation is actually anticipated to remain under the panels, which sit just above the ground, about 2.5 feet above the ground. So we're not replacing the vegetation, we're just putting the ground-mounted array above the existing grass field.
And how will that be maintained if they're only 2.5 feet up? Are you bringing in sheep or?
We will obviously do, landscaping as necessary to keep the grass at a, level. It would obscure the solar array if we don't maintain it, so we're gonna have to maintain it. And the intent is just to manage the vegetation periodically as necessary.
Okay.
Sergeant and Public Works Engineering, this is what they're trying to propose, that's the machinery.
Let's see.
It's like a low-level robot.
Mhm. You'd have to ask Chris the technical question. So my colleague, Chris Galloway, he's more familiar with the ground-mounted technology, but there are vegetation management machines that are designed to manage vegetation under these panels.
All right. Anybody else have any questions before he steps down?
There's some mention about the size of the fence or the height of the fence that you guys are looking at. Can you guys maybe give a little bit more detail? You know, I know there's discussion around a 6-foot fence from this perspective, but now we're looking at 7 foot. Does it have to do with glare? Does it have to do with privacy and you know, security from the array's perspective, or can you maybe
Yes, sir.
provide some detail?
So, in our opinion, and obviously we aren't going to be able to dictate this to the Board of Adjustment, but there's a national electric code that has been promulgated by the appropriate national authorities. That code requires a 7-foot fence around a facility of this type. Your local code only allows a 6-foot fence. So we are going to seek a variance from the Board of Adjustment to comply with the national code. And my understanding of why that requirement is in the national code is to keep unwanted access out of the facility, avoid potential liability issues. If someone were to gain access and mess with something, it is electrified, so it is a security concern, and that's the primary issue. We had originally proposed, and this may be more information than you need, we had originally proposed to have some barbed wire. Our understanding is that that's not going to be acceptable. We're backing off that. We just would like to have 12 inches of additional fencing. And so we understand that if we're not allowed to do that variance, we'll have to proceed with a 6-foot fence. But certainly we hope that the Board of Adjustment would recognize that there's a conflicting national code provision that, in our experience, would typically supersede a local code. But again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
This
that's-
is not the place for there to be too much information. It will be drug out of you. If you don't give it to us, we're going to
Yes,
ask
sir.
for it. So
Well, we're an open book. You know, we've
Okay.
really enjoyed working with the staff. They've had excellent advice for us throughout this process, and you know, hopefully we've been able to address their concerns, I think they would say, and ideally we can address yours. But that's why we're here. So if there are additional concerns about the development, you know, we will do our best to address them as we move through the process.
staff looking into that 7-foot versus 6-foot, I mean, that would be, I mean, if it's a safety or whatever that issue is, you know, how that might supersede our local stuff, then, you know, I know it needs to come up to the Board of Adjustments, but if it is a safety or anything else, what's the city's plan on addressing that?
We don't have a specific set plan yet, but it might be
Okay.
worth bringing to long range, for example, to create a situation where if there's an industrial use or something like this, where there's a national precedent, maybe
Right.
we can move our zoning code.
That's why
in line with
that's why I asked that question,
Yeah.
because I mean, it's, you know, just because it's our city, you know, I mean, if there's a reason why 7-foot is better, then, you know, we need to know. I mean,
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's something that staff will look into.
That answered my question. All right. Thanks, sir.
And if I could just piggyback on that, a lot of the local codes that we see sometimes have a provision that says that if there's a superseding national code, that can kind of substitute for the local code. So not to get ahead of myself, but you may want to consider having a similar provision in your local code that just says, you know, if there's a national code that's been promulgated that has a different standard, you know, maybe you default to
That's
that.
exactly what I just asked him to do. So, all right,
Well,
all right.
sorry for editorializing.
No, you're good. No, you're good. No, there's no such thing as too much information. I appreciate it.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
you know, we hear everything, and we want to make sure we're doing what's best for the community and our cities.
Yes, sir. And we build all over, so we see a lot of local codes.
Right, yeah.
So just trying to bring a little perspective.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it.
Yes,
Bunch.
sir.
Did you have anything you wanted to add while you're here, or not?
I,
Technical advisor, I'm vice president, and Winford as well, Galloway, but
Okay.
major simple topics that I thought you might want to be considerate of is
I can't hear you, sir, and I don't know your name. Step up there and fix both of them, okay?
Yeah. Hello, I'm Chris Galloway, Vice President with Infra as well. And a couple of items I just thought I would inform the group of is you may have, or someone may have a concern about reflection off the solar array. I'd like to put your mind at ease. The panels are coated with an anti-glare coating. Not only that, but the panels are situated in peak condition with like a very slight peak at 8%, and they're facing east and west, so almost any and all reflection would be facing vertical. And given the site location, we don't see that as a significant impact, but I just want to share this with you. Another question that someone might have might be in regards to electromagnetism, electromagnetic field. Insignificant. It all exists at the inverter array that converts the DC power to the AC. If you're familiar with what a variable frequency drive is, it's the same thing. It's very insignificant in this array. In terms of a noise sound, you'll have a conventional transformer would be present, along with minor cooling fans on the inverters. All this stuff pales to comparison to the interstate traffic nearby. So essentially no impact from noise. You may have an environmental concern. There are no chemicals that could leach into the ground. This is like maybe an oil-type transformer could have. None of that exists, so you're pretty solid on an environmental perspective. And in regards to safety and security, the system is designed to meet the 100-year wind requirement as part of the code for uplift and attachment. So in terms of a climatic event, you're protected. We do have a decent setback from the road as well as the ditch that would provide some measure of protection against vehicular traffic. And moreover, the system is completely designed with full compliance to NEC 691 and all local code and provisions. And so we'll have ground fault, current interruption. Think of that as shock protection. So should you get a vandal who thinks he wants to come down here and do something inadvisable, the system does have provisions to protect people from poor decisions. But then there's also a arc fault current interruption as well. Think of that as fire protection as well. And both of these interrupters, they'll trigger within milliseconds. So I'm not going to say that there couldn't be a condition where a panel might spark after, let's say, if a tornado lifted some heavy object, landed in the array, and I can't really forecast every scenario, but we have included provisions to keep the array safe from most reasonable expectations. And I just kind of wanted to share that.
What's the lifespan of those panels?
Over 15 years for active production, and they'll live longer, but for rated capacity, they have a degradation coefficient that we model it as about 0.5% per year loss and degradation before we need to replace them for performance reasons.
Okay.
1.5. Yes, sir. And just to piggyback on the security question, we do anticipate having multiple cameras on the site, and it'll be monitored regularly. So, we anticipate multiple layers of security around the facility.
Did you say that fence was going to be electrified?
Well, in the sense that it's interconnected to the grid, so there are components that are hot. They will be encased, so you'd have to get really crazy to get into them. I mean, you'd have to be trying, but there are components that are connected to the grid, and in that sense are electrified.
That brings up a really good point, one that I failed to mention.
Fence?
The grid, the electric grid, I'm sorry.
I thought the question was the fence electrified?
Yeah.
No, the fence is not electrified. I apologize, I misunderstood. No, the array itself is electrified. There are components of the array that obviously pose a safety issue, but the fence itself is just anticipated to be a chain link fence with some attachments that are opaque to obscure more of the array from visibility from outside.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only thing I was going to add in regards to the conductors, all the conductors are fully contained within conduit. The only components that are not within that are the interconnecting solar module panels that are tightly secured to the panel itself. Think of this insulated cabling suspended, and I mean tightly attached on 2-foot centers. And even on that run that goes to a collector, a DC collector, those have fuses at 6-foot centers. So that's also additional protection as well.
They've made leaps and bounds as far as the organic material that goes into a solar panel over the last 10, 15 years. I'm in the construction business, so I see quite a bit of that, and it's amazing what that technology is doing. Do you foresee that the technology advancing to where it could cause problems that we're going to have later on? Or is the stuff getting better to where it's not going to draw so much? It'll be safer. It'll be, even more, environmentally friendly. Tell me a story about it.
Well, I wish I could. I'm a mechanical engineer, so I speak.
I can address that.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're actually really proud of the components that are going into this array, and these solar modules that Chris is talking about are domestically manufactured by a company called First Solar out of Louisiana. They just opened a huge facility in New Iberia where Infra actually has an office. So we have a really close relationship with that manufacturer, and every model that they put off of their line, they are constantly innovating. And similarly, there's been a push for domestic energy security reasons to grow solar manufacturing domestically. Even, with the current administration, they're still supportive of that because of energy security. So even though they're maybe a little more hostile to renewable energy than some of their predecessors, but anyway, the domestic energy security is a real issue. And so having this domestic manufacturing capability is being encouraged, through tax incentives and stuff like that. But we actually think this First Solar product is an incredible product, one of the best solar modules you can get right now. Maybe a little more expensive than something made overseas, but it's worth it. But yeah, there's constant innovation, and the market price of this kind of technology is just constantly going down because they're producing more and more of it. So it's just like,
Nothing that'll present a problem later.
No, sir. I would expect innovation and advancement in this industry at least for the next 10 or 15 years. Like we're just scraping the surface of the kind of innovation and advancement.
Just the material goes into making one of that organic, or that, just what makes that, the makeup of a solar panel is just amazing.
Yes, sir.
And that technology, how it's grown over the last several years is remarkable.
Yeah, whether you like it or not, the market has really driven solar to a place where it's just as cost effective as fossil fuels.
Right.
So, some people aren't aware necessarily that that's the case, but you can build a solar array and maybe even some energy storage for something comparable to what you could build a gas-fired generating plant now. So, maybe there are some reasons to prefer that fuel source over a solar fuel source because it's more dispatchable, it's not intermittent and only generating when the sun shines. But in terms of the cost effectiveness of the technology, there's really no daylight at this point.
Right. Okay. Well, I appreciate it.
I think
What happens to those panels in 15 years when they need to be replaced?
so. They're recycled, and they would probably go back to First Solar, and then they would take whatever material they can recycle out of the existing components, put them back into new components, is my understanding. They have kind of a recycling program where you can take the old components, return them to them, and then they see what they can do with them.
Anybody else have any questions at all?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, you said that, I see like on Article 5.8, it says the street frontage buffer, the trees and everything. I know a lot of times you see these solar panels and you're going somewhere and you just see nothing but a whole field of panels. So you said you're gonna have trees to buffer, to kind of hide these things?
There's a requirement in y'all's code that we have trees on the frontage road at a certain interval, and we intend to comply. We've discussed potentially seeking a variance with the Board of Adjustment because we have to bring irrigation to the site with landscaping. We hadn't necessarily anticipated doing that, But now that we've reviewed the code in detail, we understand we'd have to get a variance to avoid that investment. So right now, we're planning on doing that. We may seek a variance for that, but we haven't made a final determination as to whether we would. But we certainly intend to, as I said, we contemplate a chain link fence, but we intend to put an opaque material that kind of ties to the fence that would obscure the visibility of the panels. And because the panels, the way they are ground mounted, they're not like a lot of the panels you may have seen where they're on a platform and they can tilt like this. This is a completely different type of solar facility. So, you know, this is a ground mounted array where it's not sticking up like this. It's more flat, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have any questions for you guys. I appreciate it very much. Gavin, I did have one for you in Victoria. Just,
Thanks, guys, appreciate
I
it.
noticed we didn't have any comments from Richard or, from Fire Village and City. Are they comfortable just from their perspective being able to get, fire and first responders into the location if for some reason it's needed?
We didn't get any specific comments from fire. We did speak with City Corporation that there is a hydrant there, and Richard did mention that was good for now. But formal comments, we didn't receive any. We're under the impression that they would be able to successfully access the site if a fire broke out and manage that.
And I would imagine that you guys building these things, you've got some pretty good indication of, you want to protect your investment, obviously, so I'm sure your site planning, your design side of it is fine. I'm just curious from our perspective,
Yeah,
more so than not, but.
Yeah, what I can say is the system is monitored 24/7 for output and other things. It's not possible to have a fire alarm system the way you would inside of a building, so that's not feasible. But with the 24/7 monitoring, we would see, take for instance my example of maybe a large object, landed on the array. You would the arc fault current would start tripping and signal alarms on the control system. We would dispatch our service technicians. And then if they deem the situation unsafe, then they would call emergency personnel. But it's not
Egress is where-
practical to have a fire alarm system on the.
Well,
at
I would
the-
imagine you guys having, maintenance on these things, you would have, a wide enough, path to get all the way to the back of it if there was a fire. If there's any
Absolutely.
Points of egress, and that's one of the things that Richard will bring up, is can we get a truck back there? So that's something we need to look at if we haven't already. I'm sure y'all have, but anyway. All right, anybody else got any questions? All right.
I'd move for approval of the application as submitted, pending staff's recommendations. Would also like to, ensure we get some kind of comment from Richard to some degree, so that we make sure that the fire's got access, at least proper access, from their perspective, so.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and Cody, I'm not going to repeat all that, but you guys just heard the man, okay? We have a motion and a second to approve this development with those conditions, and. And.
I think we had to.
No, not on this one. No, we're just approving the large-scale development, and anyway, all those in favor, acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Okay. And if we have no other business, we're adjourned. Okay? Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
I didn't make it rough. I just trying to stay right here.